Last week, so I gave a whole talk about Reb Chaim Zimmerman and about the Talmideim. I didn't talk about the Talmidim, I talked about the Talmideim. And I talked about the greatness of Reb Chaim Zimmerman, and I said that I think he could have been in the place where Rav Shach was, so he could have been there. I still believe that. He was a very, very young and very big person. My thing is that he didn't act like somebody mina yeshus, and he had all kinds of shigonot, and because of that, he didn't make it. And there's no union to make it. The only thing is, he wasn't marbitz Torah the way he could have if he would have been mina yeshuv. Now, last Shabbos, I was standing outside the shul Imre Shefer in Arnov after Mincha Gedolim, and I was talking to somebody about Mechiras Chometz, and I see a bacher standing next to me, waiting for me. I don't know what he's waiting for. I thought maybe he also wants to ask about Mechiras Chometz. And when I finished talking to the first person, this bacher comes up to me. His name is Rafi birnbaum. And he says to me, I learn in yeshiva's Chachmei Yerushalayim. So my first reaction was, oy vey. You mean, kilo, like, you mean you heard what I talked? And I was afraid the whole time that my words are going to be heard and maybe it's gonna be understood the wrong way. And he tells me, so he says that they heard the talk that I gave last week. I said, well, how did you hear it? How did you know that I talked? How did you find it? So he says, nowadays, everything that you say, you hear. And then I wanted to talk about that in a separate talk. Maybe tonight or maybe next time. But, so he tells me you should know that I've been learning 7 years in this yeshiva. And Bachrim sit and learn Bas Moda, and very good they learn. And okay, I believe him. And if there was a understanding that I was Motzi Shemra on the yeshiva's Chachmei Yerushalayim, so I asked Machila from the yeshiva and the whole of the yeshiva. But I didn't mean to be Motzi Shemra on Yeshiva's Chachmei Yerushalayim. What I did mean to say was something else. Now, this bacher tells me that this what I said over in the name of somebody, in the name of a different bacher that talked to me once at a chasna of my nephew, Avram Zalman Shtub. And this bacher told me something. Now, this Rafi birnbaum that came up to me says he knows who the bacher is. And he was there at the chasna, and he saw how the bacher was talking to me. Now, what I said was that this bacher said to me, we, he said, in our yeshiva, we only learn Rab Baruch Ber and Rab Chaim. We don't learn Rab Elchanan and Rab Shimon, and that I attacked, and I punched, and I talked against, and it's very good that I talked against it, because in case anybody else has this kind of gaiva, so they should listen to what I talked over there. But this bacher, Rafi birnbaum, tells me that that's not like that in the yeshiva, and they learn everything, and that's not the atmosphere over there that only Rab Baruch Ber and Rab Chaim. And I said, but this bacher told me that this is how they learn over there. This is how we learn, he said to me. So he says, he doesn't represent the yeshiva, and what he said is not true. And I said, but he's a good bacher, he learned Shas. He said, he learned Shas, but I don't want to use the words that he used. Now,
Rabbi Caplan.
What?
I would just want to point out from the magazine, if you're not going to say it, the magazine, what we spoke the article about, what we made the talk about, there's an 8-page article in Mishpacha magazine. It says the reporter went there, a la Boker, and there were Mapalpal, not in the Gemara, not in the Rishonim, but in Rav Baruch Ber, which is an asmachta that the boy knew what he was talking about.
No, it could be. It could be. You're asking good. It could be. But I don't know. I know from a different experience that when you read something in the newspaper, you have to take off like 2/3 and only believe 1/3. But it is an asmachta, and what you're saying is, you're asking good. And then why did the interviewer write that? The one that wrote the article, why did he write for Baruch Ber? It must be he did get a certain impression. If not, why would he write like that? So maybe you're right, but I'm saying over what this Bocher told me. But the meanwhile, I think you can learn a tremendous lesson from this whole story. You see what it can be. The Pasuk says in Koheles, Shlomo HaMelech says, Zvuve moves yavish yabia shemen rokech. They can be flies, deathly flies, that they can make ruin very valuable, expensive shemen oil, because these flies fall into it. You see the same thing over here. So there's a yeshiva. Somebody comes and he says certain things, and he gives the impression like he represents the yeshiva, and he gives a bad impression on the whole yeshiva. You see what one person can do with diburim that are not the way they should be. How a person can make an impression and ruin a whole thing. Just imagine that what could have come out of this whole story. And that, you see how careful you have to be with dibur. The Grove, when he wrote a Yeris to his wife, when he was traveling to Eretz Yisrael, he wrote a Yeris of Musar to his wife. Mainly he was giving chizuk and mourning about the union of dibur. But every dibur a person talks, it becomes written down and makes an impression, it stays. Interesting that he didn't talk about Shmiras Einayim. Good, you could say, because he was writing to his wife. On a woman, there's no Shmiras Einayim, maybe. But why didn't he write? She said, warn her children with Shmiras Einayim. Or it could be that in those days they didn't even think of the whole thing was there to watch the eyes in the streets of Vilna of 200 years ago. But dibur is something that you can be very easily nichshel. And that's what you can learn from this story over here. Somebody goes and says a dibur, especially when you say it with self-confidence, like that Bocher said, we do like this and we don't do like that. Now look what can happen. Look what an impression you can make. And we have to also learn from that. Somebody goes and he sees somebody, he says something, he says, you say a word, let's say somebody goes to a certain shul and davens in a certain minyan, and he says they daven too fast, they daven too slow, let's say like that. They daven too slow. You should know when somebody says they daven too slow, you know what that means usually? It means an extra 5 minutes. That's what usually it means. People don't pay attention. They don't look at their watch. But when they say they daven too slow, it means that it takes another 5 minutes. What happens when somebody hears that? He gets an impression. Oh, yeah, that minyan is not kedai to daven there. They daven too slow. So he starts feeling davening is something. I mean, what really lies between the lines of such a statement is, you say so they daven too slow, it means davening is something you have to get over with, and then over there you don't get over with it so fast. And that's the impression you give when you say such a thing. And that's terrible. It's mamish terrible. It's a chil Hashem, such a thing. And anybody who knows a little bit about what davening is, and anybody has a little bit of emunah, so he'll know that. I one time said that what's a to daven better? A person should think to himself before let's say a mincha. You're going to daven mincha, to catch a mincha, let's say, to Lashon B'nai Adam. So, a person should think to himself, the rest of my life, let's say I have another 60 years to live. The next 60 years depend on this Shemona Esrei over here, this mincha over here. And it's not a guzma. It's very serious. The rest of all my learning and the rest of my life, the next 60 years, depends on the Hashivenu Avinu L'Sara Secha that I'm going to say. And my health in the next 60 years depends on the Rafoinu Hashem B'nai Rafi. And the Seichel that I'm going to have, the brilliance that Reb Chaim Zimmerman always used to talk about, the Luyishkeit, all depends on the Atachon and Ladam Das. And a person has to think that before he starts a davening. And this person comes along and says they daven too slow. How could it be such a thing? How could you say such a thing? So even if you feel that way, you're not in that madrega, but don't say it. Don't spread that impression by other people. That's this Vuve Movis Yavish Yabia Shem Rokech. It can mess up Shem and Rokech very, very expensive and precious Shem and this Vuve Movis kid. That's a Dibur. That's what the koach of one Dibur has. And that's what we have to learn from this story. A person comes along and says, in this yeshiva we only learn Rabbi Ober and Rabbi Chaim. Achil Hashem, but going like Yeshua Meir said just now, there is a chashash that maybe there is something to it. But on the other hand, once a place grows and becomes so big, so one Rosh Yeshiva doesn't have any sleep over it, and it just goes the way it is. But I still believe, and I remember, and I was witness to it, that the message that came out of the house of Reb Chaim Zimmerman was that the Iker is the brilliance, genius, Iluyishkeit. And that's very wrong, I would think. And by the way, I'll just tell you a small story that Yeshua Meir once asked Reb Chaim something. He said, the Zohar says, what was it about?
It says that in the Zohar, Parshas Shmos, Daf Zayin Aches, that there will be a Makas Choshech, and the Rishonim of Yisrael will be killed out before coming of Mashiach.
Oh, now it says it. So, Chaim said, no, such Zohar. Next week, Yeshua Meir came and brought the Zohar, and he showed it to him. No such Zohar, and he didn't want to look. I think it was just that I didn't even know what he was saying. It could be just so excited about the next thing that he wasn't even able to listen to this. But it's not nice. That's not. You treat somebody who comes and wants to show you something, you talk like that. But it's all because, well, I think it's really because he was a Eli, so he didn't always know what he was doing. But we have to learn this lesson that I'm saying over here, that what one Dibur could do, or an impression it could make, and how it could go further. And nowadays that we have an internet, and we have email, and you have who knows what, I don't have any shaykhs with all these things. All I have is a simple telephone with a hechsher. And by the way, how can it be that this Bacher tells me, that everything you put up is heard, it's heard, the voice is heard. What do you mean? But you're not allowed to look at the internet. It was necessary by all the Yisrael. How is it that everything you put up is heard? The answer is that when there's no Yes Shomayim, you don't have to worry about what the Yisrael said. And each one can do what he wants. Main thing is you say genius Torah, and the rest of it, then you put out Torah that a genius said, and the rest of it is not important.
Okay, Rabbi Kaplan, we'll take a break now. Thank you.
Very good.